Welcome back, you guys. This past week things got a little crazy and I made this painted Nutella Oreo cake. So this cake is actually for a friend's birthday who is obsessed with Nutella, and I really wanted to take this cake one step further and try something I'd never done before. So I built this cake using my go-to chocolate cake recipe, which is up on Chelsweets.com, and I frosted it using an American buttercream. I really like to add a perimeter of just standard buttercream when I'm using a filling like this because it helps keep everything in place and gives the cake a bit more structure when I'm frosting. This cake is filled with my whipped chocolate buttercream recipe, which is delicious on its own, but to really take it one step further, I added about a half a cup of Nutella and 1 cup of chopped Oreo chunks. So it gives the cake a little bit of texture and also just has a real strong Nutella note throughout the entire cake. I am obsessed with this filling, so I added a really generous layer of it between my cake layers, but it does make it a bit more difficult to stack and frost them. So if you're having a hard time with your layers slipping, you can always add a thinner layer of filling, or you can also use a dowel to help keep your layers in place as you frost. Another thing that can help is to chill your cake layers before you decorate a cake. As you can see, my layers here are actually pretty flexible and I did not chill them thoroughly, but for most of my cakes I like to freeze my layers for about 30 minutes in the freezer. It helps them firm up a little bit and helps the buttercream kind of stiffen and stay in place as you decorate, and I highly recommend that if you're having trouble with your layers staying in place. So once all my layers were stacked, I added a thin crumb coat around the cake and chilled the cake in the freezer for about 5 minutes until it was firm to the touch. I then added a second thicker layer of frosting using a piping bag, and once the frosting was evenly distributed around the cake, I began to smooth it. If you want to see a full tutorial of my smoothing process, you can click the link in the upper right corner, and I go through all the details and steps that I take to get really nice smooth sides on my cakes. So once the frosting on this cake was ready to go, I chilled the cake in the freezer for about a half hour to really let it firm up before painting Nutella directly onto the cake. So I know this seems wild. I heated the Nutella up in the microwave for about 20 seconds to make it a little bit thinner, and then I just used a sanitary kitchen paintbrush to just gently spread the Nutella onto the buttercream. So I'm not using a lot of force or pressure to add the Nutella to the cake. I'm really just gently swiping along the sides. And I did 2 coats around the base of the cake to create these brush strokes. Next, I added a ring of Nutella around the top of the cake to act as the glue to hold in place all of the Oreo chunks that I added on top of it. To decorate this cake, I wanted to do something a bit different than what I normally do, like frosting swirls on top of the cake. So I ended up making a spiral pattern on top of those Oreo crumbs using some chocolate ganache, and then I added some mini Oreos at an angle on top of that. The last step was to add some crushed Oreos around the base of the cake to give the Nutella a bit of a contrast and to really highlight those brush strokes. I used a spoon to add the crumbs around the base of the cake, and once they were in place, I used the back of an offset spatula to gently press them into the Nutella. I then swept away any remaining Oreo crumbs and the cake was all ready to go. Still can't believe that I painted Nutella onto a cake, but my friend Taryn was pretty excited about it and seemed thrilled at how much Nutella was incorporated into this cake. So now I'm going to cut in quickly so you guys can see what the inside looks like. You can see we have those really thick layers of that whipped chocolate buttercream filling, and we've got a giant slice to enjoy. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you liked it, be sure to click the like and subscribe buttons below.